Just making sure this is for a smaller audience. Okay. Wanted to make sure it wasn't public. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Swamp Rose, and I'm continuing my podcast covering the Idaho4 case, otherwise known as the case against Brian Kohberger. So I've made this members only because I'm hesitating to make this public, but I'm just going to get right into it. So I woke up this morning and like YouTube was abuzz talking about something that was said last night in an interview with a YouTuber, and Anjanette Levy. If you don't know who she is, she's a pretty well-known journalist who covers true crime. So anyway, they were talking about some leaked information that's currently being investigated by Judge Hippler in Brian Kohberger's case, which was prompted by a Dateline NBC special, just to recap on everything that's going on. So last night, a YouTuber stated that several different people got this leaked information, and they said it came from a non-law enforcement source. And that got me thinking, you know, I was deep down the rabbit hole with other leaked information about a year ago, and I thought I'd just bring you the information that other people went on the record and told me on my show. So to begin with, I'm going to show you a clip. And this is from a woman named WSU Mom Kim, who I've gotten to know over the last year and a half. And I think she's a lovely person, but she came on the record to talk about her experiences. Now, what's interesting is many people told WSU Mom Kim they didn't believe her because her story was so different than what we had on the public record, as far as, you know, we didn't think anybody was even awake in that house until noon. But this woman was going on the record saying, no, my daughter received Snapchats at 10 a.m. So I'm going to play you what she said, then I'm going to play you who gave her additional information that she had talked about on live streams. And then I'm going to bring up a second person who talked about this same law enforcement source. So let's begin with WSU Mom Kim. This is a 2-minute segment. If you want to see the interview for yourself, I'll link it below. There, Freudian slip there. And yeah, this is a really interesting interview, and we're going to go in about the 7-minute mark here. Answer to this question, but have you heard any rumblings on the street about this naked man theory, about somebody that ran by Bethany's window?
I thought I had heard it, but I've never heard it anywhere but maybe just out there. Nobody's ever said well, no, I've never heard a naked man. I did hear that Bethany and Dylan had both seen the people who were there, and they thought it was a party and locked themselves in the downstairs bedroom. And
that was the initial reports.
Yeah, that's what was initially in the Snapchat group Snapchats that were sent, which is how my daughter found out at 10.
Did the police ever collect your daughter's phone?
No, they didn't collect the phone, and they could have. I offered them our cloud and our passwords, and they could take any of it for any social media.
Didn't take any of it? Is that what you just said?
I don't know if they did, because I only give it. So when I called, and obviously I don't get information back, but when they assigned us an ISP officer, they didn't collect the phone, and they could have. I offered them our cloud and our passwords, and they could take any of it for any social media.
Didn't take any of it? Is that what you just said?
I don't know if they did, because I only give that. So when I called, and obviously I don't get information back, but when they assigned us an ISP officer who would call and ask me questions, or if I found something out, I would call him and tell him, and he offered. So you get to know them, and then you're talking, and one thing leads to another, and you know, they say things in conversation. They're people.
So later on, there were many things. So my interview with WSU Mom Kim was really concise, and we stuck to a lot of the points, and we got really clear about where she heard some of the information. It's a little over an hour. I'll link it below. I have a redacted, really circulated version. I'll link below. And if you ever wanted to see the raw, unredacted version, we do have that available as well in live stream. But there were other things she said in other live streams, and she was told they came from an ISP officer. So I wanted to play that twice for you. Now, let me show you another clip, because when WSU Mom Kim came on my show, she just very graciously joined panel. I didn't have a chance to vet her, follow up, make sure she was the real deal. So I actually contacted another YouTuber who had the opportunity to do that. And he came on my show and he explained exactly how we do it. That is Daniel from DTS. And he also references the ISP officer in this. So let me bring this up. So what I'm getting at is, either way, leaked information, whether it came from a parent, because it sounds like each parent had their own quote unquote handler of sorts, I would assume, like an ISP officer. And I use that term because that's how Nancy Grace stated this when she was talking about the Gonzalez's ones. I wonder if this information could come from them, because if you remember, Steve Gonzalez, before I play you this clip, I'll pull it up while I'm talking though. Before I play you this clip, I did something I haven't done before recently. So if you would ask me about a month ago where I thought this leak came from, I would say, oh, it came from the FBI. I mean, look at Howard Bloom claims he has 3 FBI sources that leaked him information. However, when I did something recently I'd never done before, which is I went back and I read some information that Howard Bloom's airmail article was based on, and I'd never given it a chance before because I couldn't verify whether it was real or not. But when you read these text messages, it's very clear that the parent, Steve Gonzalez, never came and when he had been leaked the information about the grand jury, he had not met up with Howard Bloom or his sources yet. That's what it sounds like in those text messages that I read, which like I said, had never given a chance to in like 2 years because I couldn't verify them. But if they are true, then that means that these leaks probably started long before we started hearing the sourcing for A Night Comes Falling. I'm guessing and speculating. I don't know. Let's hear what Daniel said. This clip is going to go on for, this is going to be about a 3-minute clip.
What's going on with Kim? I think I've seen her in the live chat. How you doing, Kim? It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you, Kim. I don't know. Tonka, if you're still watching, I really would love to know what you think. Come on. Okay, because Tonka does have a comment. I want to know because you guys, I sort of have been operating in this bubble. So like, I did hear about this from Discord. I should thank Beautifully Broken Woman. When I was drinking my coffee, I saw a notification from her and she told me about this interview with Anjanette Levy. So first I should give credit to Beautifully Broken Woman, but I kind of operate in my own bubble. So I review this information, I give you my take on it, and like as fresh and raw as I can. And then I come back and I see what other people are saying because I don't want to repeat like what others are thinking. So correct me, build off what I say. Anyway, here we go. Please. What I was saying is originally when I had interviewed Kim, a lot of people had questions and I never really got a chance to vet Kim. She was just a random, guest on my show. And so I reached out to you, and that's actually how we started talking. Is I was asking you how you knew Kim, and just so I could have her back on my show and know a little bit more about her. And so I didn't know she'd be in the live chat because I haven't talked to her in a while, but I thought we'd show that video. And I have like they're about like 2 or 3 minute clips I wanted to get your reaction to. She talks about a couple different topics. And so I figured it'd be a good way to end our segment since we had about 10, 15 minutes more to go.
Yeah, yeah. Let's do this. Steeler fan says it's Pam.
Pam?
Oh man, I'm so bad with names. That's funny.
Pam.
I called Kim Pam once. Long story short, I own a couple businesses, and one of my customers or clients is named Pam. And so I had just talked to Pam and Troy before I got on the show. And so I called her Pam, not thinking about it. And so I wasn't the only one. I came out on Publicly Buzz and they called her Pam too. So I was like, you see, it's not just me. But I'm bad with names. I hate it. But let's watch.
Start a new rumor.
Oh, dude, it was a conspiracy across the world. I think people thought she was my wife. And I was like, man, you're crazy. Not because like if anything like that, but like my wife's been on the show. Like you've seen her, you've heard her voice. Come on now, you know what I'm saying? So it's crazy.
Yeah, I think you'd be a little more creative than your wife too.
Yeah.
All right, let me put this. I've got, so this first clip we're going to listen, it's just only a minute and a half, and then I'm going to skip forward because we kind of, all right. Body is interesting. What he's been saying is so close to the info that I was given early on, with the exception of Ethan.
I've seen his stuff.
Oh, sorry.
Kim, thank you so much for coming on.
It really
Like,
isn't.
just like
Well,
neighbors.
it's fine. I don't care. Nobody has to believe me. I know that I'm not lying and want to be wrong with a lot of the things I've known. And I've said it for, I feel like, the right reasons. Now, I should have done it differently, obviously. But I didn't. And that's just where we are. Right? That's just where, you learn, unfortunately, But at the end of the day, I think we all have the same goal.
But it would be worse though if you took what you know and just kept it to yourself. I mean, I think it's, and that's true with everybody. I mean, that's why I think it's, just because we want to hear everything so that we can process everything and figure out what's the most plausible, what's possible.
Right, and it was alarming to discover that time delay. Not that my daughter didn't tell me. I totally get it. I would have packed them up so lickety split they would have been home that day. Because we were there, it was Parents' Weekend, right? We had been told, and that's likely why they didn't tell us and his parents at either school until later. Well, like right before they put out the shelter in place, and then like within 10 minutes it was gone, and it was, you're free to go, everybody's safe. I'm like, did they catch it? Like, and they didn't even they hadn't even caught him. They couldn't tell us who, why, what, where. They could only tell us nothing, and then. But they were safe. It was targeted, or the house was targeted, which now it's.
And I'm going to pause right there because the story that she's telling, I mean, I don't want to, obviously I don't want to play Kim's whole interview, but just kind of telling the origins of what her story is. And for those who maybe don't know WSU Mom Kim, who are watching, she has a story about her daughter's Snapchats the morning at 10 a.m. the morning of November 13th, 2022. And I
wouldn't say that.
All right.
So I have my interview with her recorded, and I think she's Kim's a great person. I don't think she's lying. But and it very well could have been Snapchat, but when Kim supposedly found this out. Well, let me start off in the beginning.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be muted. I find this to be an interesting interaction. So don't forget, this is like a year ago before we had all this information unsealed. And it, to me personally, and only, meeting, Daniel on a handful of occasions, it feels like he didn't think that it was true. And lo and behold, the information. So, I mean, even he was questioning it, even though he believes he vetted Kim. He didn't necessarily believe her information. It sounds like, in my opinion.
When I said I vetted Kim, maybe I used the wrong term. I probably should have said I verified who she was. All right. So she is who she says she is. Her name is Kim. She has a daughter and a son that both attended WSU. Her daughter had a friend who was dating a person who attended the University of Idaho. And so all those things ended up being true, and the way I figured and found those things out was, she'd contact me on the show and she talked and said some things. And I said, yeah, let's talk off air because some of the things are a little bit out there. And, she gave me a name of the athlete that her daughter's best friend was dating or is dating. I don't know if there still are or not. And she just gave me a first name, last initial, and she wasn't even sure about it. She gave me the name of her daughter and the name of her daughter's best friend. And so what I did was I went through the University of Idaho and I found a guy that I thought was the person that she was referring to. He fit what she had told me about him and the sports that he had played. And so I looked up him through his Facebook, which had been around since like 2014 or something like that. So it's not something new. And I found where he was in a relationship with somebody who had the same first name as the person that Kim stated that her daughter was friends with. Now, again, all I had was first names. I didn't even have last names at this point. And so I had Kim's last name because, well, she called the show and her last name came up on my caller ID. So I then went and I went through that person's friends list, and it didn't take very long, and pictures to find Kim's daughter. And I was like, all right. And I clicked on Kim's daughter's profile, and sure enough, guess who her mom is? And all these profiles were created and relationships were gotten into well before the murders, like years before. And so it's not like somebody created these fake profiles all of a sudden out of nowhere in 2022. I mean, some of them are as far dated back as like 2014 or 2016, 17, stuff like that is when they were created. And there's pictures there of family pictures throughout time with dates on them. So yeah, I have no doubt whatsoever that Kim is Kim. Her story, I don't know how much of it is accurate.
This is where he says it. And I think one of the things that Kim did in my interview, which I appreciated so much, is that when Kim talked about certain speculation, we really tried to nail down the terminology. Where is this word on the street? Is this speculation? Is this something you read somewhere? Or is this something you heard directly from your contacts? And once she started breaking things down in that manner, really her story makes a lot more sense. And she explains where she has heard some of these things. But and then, you know, as far as her accounts about the Snapchat, at least we know she's done the right thing with that information, and we'll see.
Right.
We'll
right.
see
And I'm not saying that it's not true. I don't know. But when it comes to the information that Kim has, so what Kim had told me was that she was leaving Pullman when she got or she had already like left Pullman. They were a little bit of ways away, not too far away, because they got the alert. They got the vandal alert, stay in place. This vandal alert was well after Idaho University got their alert. And Kim said that she called her daughter and told her, hey, you know, I got this vandal alert. And her daughter had said, yeah, we heard about that, or whatever the case may be. And they left it at that. No times, no places, or who you heard it from, or any of those things were ever discussed at that point. I think she said it was like the next day or 2 days later that she was talking to her, and her daughter mentioned that she had heard it in the morning. Now, by this time, Snapchat had already disappeared. It had been over 24 hours. So there's no way that Kim or her daughter, you know, could have gone back at that point. I mean, I'm sure you can go and download something. Maybe you can do that. I don't know. I don't know if she's done that, you know, and shown, hey, look, this is my daughter's Snapchat. This is November 13th, and this is when messages started coming in. I don't know if she's done that or not, but at that moment, I don't think they had access to that. I'm not sure. But if it was deleted, Kim would have had no knowledge exactly what time it was. And from what I understand and from what she told me, neither did her daughter. She said, I don't know, sometime in the morning. And then she kept pressuring her. And I think it was over the span of a day or so that her daughter said, I don't know, somewhere around 10:30. And so it wasn't something that she was looking back as far as a reference to and saying, oh, it was exactly 10:30 or any of those type of things. It was her looking back saying it was in the morning. It was a Saturday morning. You know, Kim told me that her daughter and herself were out that night until very late in the early morning hours, you know, themselves. So I don't think she's waking up bright and bushy till at 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. You know what I'm saying? If she'd been partying with her boyfriend and her friends, and it was, you know, the last weekend of whatever, I think it was parents' weekend, so there was some stuff going on. But yeah, she said, I didn't stay snap. I didn't think that mattered. Yeah. And so I had told her, I was like, all right, so like, you know, she told me a bunch of stuff that was going on. And I was like, you know, the information that she has isn't like firsthand. It's a little bit of ways, right? Even if the information that she had was true at that point, majority of it was from her daughter's best friend's boyfriend, right? So it's not first person at all, and that's one of the things that I have been trying to explain a lot of times. Like that aspect of it isn't first person, and you do have to put into context that sometimes things get exaggerated when it goes from one person to the next to the next to the next. And so to me, what was important about what she was saying was the 10:30, because her daughter is the one who said that happened, that she saw that message. But I was never able to verify that it was actually seen. And so I can't tell you if that's true or not. The things that she says that I think a trooper or a state police officer may have told her, I don't know if that's true or not. And I do think that there's a possibility that if Kim was calling constantly asking for information and updates, that maybe somebody lied to her and said, oh yeah, we got all this, and gave her a big story. Because I think they even told her, yeah, go out there and tell the world about it. Go get on YouTube. That's not something an officer would say, especially if they had some pertinent information. That sounds something like, yeah, like they really don't, they're trying to quiet her. Is the sense that I got from that, which I think was the wrong way of doing it too. If that was what had happened, it's very much plausible, and then she was told the truth. I don't know, but based on the things that I've seen from the scene and her descriptions of what she says she's heard, I wouldn't say that they're accurate.
It's interesting. One thing that just stuck out to me with what you just said is, in my interview, Kim said to me when she was talking about her son joining fraternity and calling the police after something that happened when he was getting initiated, she said to me that the police, she's a very protective mom, I'm paraphrasing, and the police know her voice probably at this point. So I can see why I can see why you're concluding, and Kim has said that right from her mouth, that she was, for protection of her kids, calling constantly after these incidences, trying to keep.
I would have too. I mean, Brian Koberger didn't get arrested for 7 weeks. So for 7 weeks, almost 2 whole months, people that were in the area were living in fear that somebody could do that again.
Right.
If your child was in one of those areas very close, I think you would want to be checking in not only on them, but with the school and maybe even with law enforcement to try to figure out where the case is. Especially if you have kids who are, obviously, if they're in college, they're adult age, so you can't force them to leave. You get what I'm saying? So you can only do what you can do. And so I don't fault her for any of those things, and I don't fault her for some of the things that she said as far as what she's heard or people have told her. A lot of the times I felt more like the creator for going down the speculation avenue. I think it's weird when somebody asks somebody, what do you think happened, and then castrates them for giving them an opinion and says, oh, that's impossible, or oh, this didn't happen, or you're saying this and trying to say that that's fact when you ask them for their thoughts and opinion, not for what you know.
I would even take it a step further than that, is when we have people on our show, we're so careful and helpful to them if they're not used to being on the podcast to saying allegedly, or putting up a banner saying this is your opinion. And I think that you're right. If you're a creator and you hear something, the first thing you do when you read a piece of information is go find its source, see what you can do to verify it. And there's no difference in that when you're having an interview and following up with questions. So yeah, I totally hear what you're saying. I mean, I don't even really think we need to play more of the interview. I certainly don't want to put Kim on the spot, but I really wanted your reaction to that, because like I said, that was how I initially reached out to you and started conversations, making sure that the guests I had on my show, that I understood everything about her and where she was coming from. And I do appreciate you taking the time to explain that to me, my audience, because it's probably one of the top 3 things that gets brought up to me when on my channel. So I just appreciate your clarification. Thank you.
Yeah. Like I said, when I've talked to Kim, I've never thought that she was being deceptive or lying. I thought maybe perhaps she wasn't accurate in some of the things that she was saying. Maybe even her memory may have not been as accurate. It happens to everybody. I've caught a 3-pound fish. I told one person, the next person, by the time I told 5, it was like 7 pounds. So that's just coming from me. And so, like I said, I'm not saying that was the case here either. I'm just saying that, based on some of the things that I have seen as well of the crime scene, I wouldn't say that what she's saying as far as some of the injuries and things is plausible. Well, mainly one thing that she's saying, let me put it that way. Mainly one thing that she says is not plausible.
Do you want to clear that one thing up right now, or do we all want to just assume?
I think she mentioned something about the degree of the injury was so bad that maybe something was taken, like an organ or something. And I don't think that's true at all. I don't see anything like that in what I've seen.
Yeah. And I wonder too, and I never got to finish my interview with Kim. I wonder too, if I was in the situation she was telling me that, I think I would have a question for Kim. Where did you hear that? Was that word on the street? Was that speculation from somebody? Okay. This is it. This is what we've been waiting for. I don't know. Oh, Christy, I'm so glad you're here. So this is I know I told you guys it was going to be a 3-minute segment. We're 13 minutes in. I don't know, you guys. This was over a year ago. I thought it was right in the beginning, but this is what I was waiting for. This is where Daniel confirms where she got the information. So before I play it, just keep in mind one thing. I'm not saying that Kim was, I can't vouch for Kim. I never vetted her personally. I can only go with the information that I got from Daniel. And go with my own gut, which isn't that reliable because obviously I've been tricked a million times. But what I do have to say is it's interesting that some of the information was accurate. So the what I'm getting at, if Kim isn't who she says she is, or was a witness via proxy, some of the information was accurate. So clearly something was leaked or told before the case was redacted. So let's hear the last time they reference who they got the information from, not they. Who Kim got the information from, and then we'll wrap it up. I'm sorry, this is a 25-minute live stream. It was supposed to be 10. Okay. Listen real fast. Christy, you remember this interview, I'm sure. At the scene, and I just wonder where she got that too.
She told me that she got that from the trooper. So I don't know, and I'm curious to know, like, how much information does that trooper have? You know what I mean? And
the ISP officer that she was assigned?
Yeah, because I mean, if you're assigned to taking tips, you're not assigned to any real importance of the case. You get what I'm saying? Like, they're like how many tips did Payne look into from the 17,000? I think he said none. He only looked at the pertinent information, the pertinent evidence, stuff that matters. So if you're out there taking tips and phone calls about things that I think he's.
I'm pausing there because I just wanted to read WSU Mom Kim's, because she was in the audience and she made this comment. She said, Daniel, 100%, it wasn't firsthand, and I will never turn it over to anyone. I didn't call constantly. No police, didn't say that. Green's assistant told me to go to YouTube. Green's assistant told her to go to YouTube. So, I mean, you guys glean whatever you want from this. This isn't me giving like some sort of like, stuff I have in my back pocket. This is public statements, and it's there for us to, they didn't do any, she's just receiving the information. And if Green was the assistant, was the one that told her to go to YouTube, I actually have, Lady Juzzy has given me a lot of research on her. We had done some, he actually had a PR representative at that time. I don't have it at the tip of my fingers, but we did look into this a while ago. All right, I'll stop talking. Let's listen. I'm just excited because I think you guys will find this interesting.
He said none. He only looked at the pertinent information, the pertinent evidence, stuff that matters. So if you're out there taking tips and phone calls about things that you may have heard or not heard, you're probably not high on that totem pole in this investigation.
You never thought of it like that. I never thought of it.
How would they know about the details of those things? I mean, yes, sure, some things get spread around or whatever between the department or whatnot, but the fact that very little is spread around about the truth of the case, like the fact that there was like Bethany and Dylan were awake during the murders. I know that there was some people that had said that they were, and that one person had seen somebody in a mask in the house at 4 a.m. Me and Blue and Chaim had discarded it because we're like, dude, who's going to see somebody with a mask in the house and not call 911? And so, we went through all those things too. We had all those thoughts. And, we had to break it down and really think about it and put ourselves and talk to people who have been in those shoes, who have been in fear, who have been a victim of home invasions. We had one person call us that said that she was a victim of 2 home invaders. And she ran and she hid in her closet with her phone in her hand while she was in the closet hiding. She didn't call 911. They eventually found her and assaulted her several times. And then when she was done, she called her friends. Or when they were done, she called her friends. She didn't call police. Her friends called police. And so those things happen, and probably more often than you would think, especially with something like that traumatic. Going to a stranger and telling a stranger something you've never met before, something that traumatic, probably isn't the first thing that people are thinking when something happens. So they're probably calling mom, dad, friends, anybody that they trust. Right. And so just because Hunter Johnson's the first person that showed up doesn't mean necessarily that they're the first person they called too. They could have attempted to call their parents or family members or whoever. And we got to remember, this is 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning. or Sunday morning after or noon after a Saturday night, a college town. I mean, people drink, people party, people sleep late on Sundays. So, it's highly possible that that's also how some of the things got spread around, is because maybe they did call or text other people, and Hunter Johnson wasn't the first one. He was just the first one to arrive. You know what I mean? Highly possible that that's also how some of the things got spread around, is because maybe they did call or text other people, and Hunter Johnson wasn't the first one. He was just the first one to arrive. You know what I mean?
I agree with you. 100% it could have happened that way. Or even what I've come to think is, if it was Hunter, he did say at the Service for Life that he was Ethan's best friend, and Xana's father confirmed they had just redone the locks on the door. So I was thinking, if they couldn't get in because there was a new code on the door, or if they were locked in the room, Hunter Johnson is like the closest male who could maybe help break down that door with like a crowbar or brute force or something. I just figured, since he was friends and he was close, to get through that room if they were the first people discovered.
Right. Well, we're also assuming that Dylan or Bethany attempted to open that door. I'm not even sure they left their room until after Hunter got there. So, they may have just called people because nobody's answering the phone and just don't want to leave their room. And then somebody gets there that they know, runs upstairs, gets the door open, says what's there. And that's why somebody faints at that moment versus any other moment. Because if somebody went up there and they try to open the door, if they looked under and they saw the massacre that was there, they're not going to faint later. They're going to faint then. So if she fainted, which from what I heard she did, that part is accurate, that Bethany fainted, that's because that's the moment that what she feared became real. That moment would have happened.
I think that this is actually a really good opportunity for us to pause, Tonka, too, and understand that we're reviewing this, and I can probably stop here. It's interesting to listen to, though. That's why I kind of kept going. I kind of kept going just because it was interesting to listen to. But for those who just tuned in, this is long before the 911 call or the text messages got released or unredacted. So the way that we're talking is before we had any information. We had no idea or any confirmation that Dylan ran downstairs and slept in Bethany's room. But I think this is probably a good place for me to pause. I mean, we're over a half an hour now, and I just want to bring it up to you. Was the number one thing I saw on my feed when I came on YouTube was that everybody was talking about how a YouTuber confirmed having something leaked. And I just thought this was interesting because both of them came on and said early on they heard these sources, and could this be the source? I mean, the other thing I would say is, well, I've said all I need to say. Go back and review it, replay. I'm just going to turn to the chat and see if there's anything new. Oh, thank you so much for being here, Trisha, and Christy and Tonka and Kane. Wait, DM went upstairs. DM went downstairs to BF's room. Wouldn't she have seen the door open? And Tonka said something, law enforcement confirmed all the doors were open. So clearly what I said about the locks was not true back then. It was unconfirmed. I don't know. And I don't know. The strange thing is, if Hunter, to me, and I just need clarification because my brain won't start looping on this. It's like I heard the 3 knocks from Hunter in that 911 call. I thought the description from the released transcripts from court said that Xana was in the hall, in the doorway. So I don't know. I do too. So I do have another live stream. I'll try and get it together. I just want to present it to you, but I have something to say about Brian Kohlberger's alibi. And so hopefully in the next few minutes, I'll go live again and do another little members live. I'll consider releasing them to the public. I don't know, but I hope you had a good time. I just want to say thank you for bringing positive energy. It just really lightens up the live stream, and I feed off your energy when you're here. So thank you for all the positive energy. Thank you to my mods, and thank you to the viewers, and thank you to the replay crew. And thank you to my Discord server for the wonderful updates. You all are such an amazing community, and I'm so lucky to have you in my life. I love you too very much. Please, all 3 people in my chat right now, my mods, Trisha, Echoes of Clarity, Walking on Tonka, and Christy, all frequently post on YouTube. So please go check out their channels if you like Idaho 4 content. Anyway, have a great day. I'll see you soon.